So yeah, a bit of an impromptu community call, but I just thought it would be good, considering we're such an early project that you guys just hear from us. Obviously, you've been super volatile market for like rebase tokens over the past few days, but I think it's good that everyone just syncs up, recalibrates, and just remind and we just remind everyone what we're sort of planning for the future, and I guess what's like next in store for us. Um, so there's quite a few things on the agenda. I don't want to go too long because we'll also probably do some questions and stuff. So I'll just sort of not rapidly answer them, but like I'll just start like now so that we don't keep everyone on here for like hours and hours, I guess. I guess first things first is what should we start with, Kieran? Should we start with wxBTRFLY?
Yeah, some updates regarding the wxBTRFLY bug and like kind of like what's happened. So, I mean, through Immunify, through the Immunify bug bounty program that we have, we kind of got like a red flag about like this particular issue in the wxBTRFLY contract, and it's one of those where like it got flagged as serious, and then like they were all up in our DMs through the Immunify like portal through Telegram. They're like, let's arrange a call. This is very serious, right? And then we did, and then we kind of realized that within like 5 minutes of like having the problem explained to us, we realized that this was a very serious problem. And then we basically spent the rest of that day preparing a fix, right? A white hat hack to essentially take the funds that were at risk and to like put them into our multi-sig. And like that took quite a while because like we were like basically encoding that into a single transaction, which we were calling through flashbots. Like we had like a solution like ready like within like an hour, but it took 30 million gas, and then it took us like 10 hours to get it down to like 10 million. Then we finally did that. Then as soon as we did that, we made the announcement because it's not safe to make the announcement like before. Like what we've been doing is like the solution is actually been like fairly straightforward to execute to like reimburse everybody. It's just that kind of like given what's happened with the wxBTRFLY contract and the situation that we're in, and like the fact that there might be like some loss of trust, we've decided to get an auditor involved just to view the fixed contract. The fix was only like 1 line of code, 2 lines of code, and like really like we're 100% certain it works. We did unit testing, we did all sorts of testing. We did unit testing for like the reimbursement, unit testing to check that like it's impossible to do the exploit on the new contract. So we're fairly confident it works, but just like we thought we'd pass it on to an auditor just because there's so much money involved. It would be kind of stupid not to. So the auditor like might take like another like 12 to 24 hours, but like it's a lot better to have peace of mind than to just rush things. And like that's one thing that we've kind of realized is like we're in a position now, like we're quite like a really blessed position. We have a strong treasury and like we have a really strong community, and like we want to like do things more thoroughly and more properly moving forward as well, because like we're in a really strong position. Yeah, that's basically the update with the wxBTRFLY. I think like tomorrow we'll be able to give you like an update and tell you what everything's been migrated over, check your balances, here's a new contract address. But until then, like we're just waiting on this impromptu audit.
Cool. Yeah, I see like questions like dropping in. I guess like Jay, maybe just like keep note of the questions and we'll try to hammer through everything and answer the questions at the end. So yeah, I guess like let's talk about like what's sort of next, like all the different things we have going on. I'm just looking at like the announcement I put out. So the Curvance seed round. So that recently went to Snapshot. That's a super interesting protocol. I'm gonna invite like the founder on stage if he wants to come. I don't know if he's just like listening in, but I see he's in the chat to talk about his protocol. But yeah, so as you guys know, we've accumulated like a significant amount of like CRV, a significant amount of CVX, and we've really been able to like place ourselves at the forefront of like these core wars for like this month that we've been out. I think now, whether you guys choose to include Moki or not, we're in the top 3 holders of CVX, which is really good. Like, last Vodium round wasn't as lucrative as the last one, but we still managed to pull in around like 600,000. And I'm assuming now, like, it's just going to keep on growing with like the amount we've been pulling in. People are still like our protocol are still building around like the Curve ecosystem, right? And what we want to make sure is that, whoever is eventually going to be building influence in the ecosystem, we want to be like partnered with and working closely with, right? So I guess like when Curvance was sort of still in the idea phase, or they put out like the research paper, we sort of started having conversations and chatting because obviously we're in similar lanes, even if we're approaching things a bit differently. And the conversations have been going super well, you know. As you guys can tell, like we managed to like get our DAO like an allocation in that round for the CVE seed round, and I invited Michael up. Maybe for those who aren't familiar, like I won't explain the protocol like for him. I'll let him do it.
Sure. Yeah. And sorry, guys, if my connection's not very good. I'm actually at the airport right now picking a friend up. But yeah, I believe there's a lot of synergies here between Butterfly and Curvance in general, you know, whether that's creating new lending products for you guys or, you know, just helping boost the Treasury's kind of yield on the various CVX and CRV, you know, strategies that you guys are using. For those that aren't familiar, we're creating a lending market for the Curve ecosystem and hoping to expand further in the future. We're in kind of early development stage, I'd say. You know, we're just tackling, you know, smart contracts, different oracles. We're kind of identifying alongside with Rari Finance the various oracles that we may need to build from scratch on chain. That's kind of where we currently are with it. But we're targeting like a late Q1, early Q2 release, and that's going to depend largely on, you know, security auditing and making sure that the product's well tested prior to going to market. But yeah, I mean, not too much else to say there. I appreciate you bringing me on, Sammy.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just jump in there and add some more things. So yeah, like I said, like it's super important that we sort of get that we build these relationships out with people in the same ecosystem as us, right? And I think, you know, eventually we want to have our own curve pool too, right? We want to be on the V2 and have, you know, Butterfly trading against something like Frax or something like ETH, whatever the case is. So obviously it makes a lot of sense for us to plug in that sense, because then we can enable lending against like the LP token. And on the other side of it, you know, there will be a future where we are accumulating LP positions of different protocols within our treasury, right? And using Curvance, it's like an easy way for us to sort of either get leverage on that position, or if we're looking to, you know, boost curve rewards for a specific pool, we're able to get in there and borrow that protocol to, you know, accumulate even more CVX or CRV, right? So I think us being in the position that we're in the Curve ecosystem, like I think Curvance is like a super important partner to have, and I think, you know, I think the governance proposal, like the forum post, is like passing with flying colors and stuff, right? So I'm excited for all doing that. Uh, yeah, like I'll just leave it there at Curvance because we have a bunch of other stuff to go through. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Michael.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. We'll do a more in-depth call here once it's a little more open for you guys and I'm not at the airport, but I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, sure thing. Cool. Next up, so new LPs. So yeah, like in this period of like extreme volatility, we could to say the least. I think like one thing that's been flagged is obviously that we need more like liquidity pool diversity. I think while we still want to maintain that pool against Ohm, I think like majority of the community has said like I think it's time to, you know, explore new LP options and like open the token up to like either like a stable coin pair or like an ETH pair or something a bit more stable. Obviously like we're all super bullish on Ohm, but when it goes to situations like it's been going through the past few days, like you know, we sort of are pegged to them in that sense, right? Which is, I guess you could say, like hurt our growth over the weekend and maybe held us back from doing some other stuff. I've been talking about it a bit, like in the Discord, but I think like one thing we've been exploring is like the Frax LPs. I think with the urgency of it, it might be something that we do without governance. We've been talking with Sam a lot, and they have this really cool program of like Frax as a service, right? Where basically, you know, sharing the LP fees with them, we are able to tap into like a bunch of Frax and sort of just pair that against Butterfly that we have in the treasury and just get an LP going right away so that we can have like a liquid Frax pool immediately. And I think that's probably something we're going to start exploring now, something for this week to do. It leads nicely into the next topic, but I think, yeah, like one other thing I'll add on that is like if we don't go down the Frax route, like, you know, most likely we'll go against ETH or something like that.
I mean, like I can add like a lot of detail like on this because like obviously like I've been working with the internal policy team a lot and we were working on Thecosomata. Obviously like given the fact that the own price is really tanked, we're not sure like when we would launch Thecosomata, even though like we'd have the go ahead from like our DAO like on Sunday when the Constitution Amendment passes. But also, what's really interesting about that Constitution Amendment is it enables us to actually mint Butterfly to create Frax LP. So, like Sammy was just talking about like liquidity as a service with like Frax and like Ondo, for example. What we could do is like we could really easily like as well as like minting Butterfly for like Thecosomata and to like leverage the own lending facility, we could like mint Butterfly to create like a really attractive like liquidity opportunity for like Frax holders to potentially like put into this vault or like for the Frax DAO themselves. Yeah, like I think like how much Butterfly do we have in the DAO? I think like within the DAO. I'm not sure if someone can like check. Yeah, but we have like 4 million of Butterfly, right? So we obviously need that to also like fund like contributors and stuff. We can take quite a large allocation of that, maybe add like $5 to $6 million worth of liquidity, like with Frax, in partnership with Frax. But then like a lot of like the liquidity that we would aim to add would be like through like this constitution amendment, which would enable us like mint Butterfly really slowly to add LP. Like the original plan was to like start with Ohm and then start playing around with like Frax and like how we could potentially make that work. But like now, like kind of given the situation, we might start the Frax first. It kind of just depends on like the market situation and volatility and how quickly we can move. But that's essentially the idea because like we'd be quite limited if you just use kind of the fund DAO funds.
Started talking about the Thecosomata. Maybe you can give a rundown on that because that's like another exciting thing we've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, so like basically, like we're really tight with Olympus, right? Like we're all Ohmies, even though the price is going down. Like we kind of see the value in like Ohm as a reserve asset, right? But let's be real, like the Olympus we raised has been the only asset which we haven't been able to utilize in some kind of positive way. We've been able to put the CVX and the CRV into strats and like do good stuff with like Votemak, getting bribe income. We can't do anything like that with Olympus. Apart from staking it, and even then the value of GM has been falling. And so like we also have the problem that obviously our liquidity is in Olympus as well. So when Olympus takes a hit, we take a hit directly. And like we were talking with Olympus, and in the V2 Treasury, they have this feature called incur debt. So incur debt kind of existed in like V1, but it was only like you can use SOM to borrow like DAI, right? But in this case, you can use SOM to borrow OHMs. It's like literally like Alchemix. Our plan is to use that just to create LP. It's a really innovative solution because it means that like, well, we're not dumping Ohm. We're not just losing all our Ohm exposure to create LP and rescue ourselves. We're actually maintaining the relationship with Olympus by holding Olympus. At the same time, we get to hold on to the upside. It's just that like we get to literally borrow Ohm against SOM to add LP. And like that would help us quite a lot because like every little helps when it comes to like adding liquidity, but at the same time, like we have like long-term ambitions with like what we could do with that Ohm, right? For example, like they're gonna make like a geom vault, a geom reactor in like Tokamak, and like if we could put geom there, then that would be like a really good use of our Ohm as well because we can get Tok off that. And that's kind of like how we're thinking, right? So if we can hold on to this Ohm, then it's just like a really good like investment decision. And so that's kind of the benefit of Thecosomata as opposed to just dumping Olympus into LP and then calling it a day. We get to hold on to that, which is really cool.
Okay, dope. We're already like taking way too much time on some things, but let's talk about Operation Hidden Hand and DAO-locked and Bribe-locked Butterfly, and I guess like what the fuck I've been talking about in the Discord for the past little bit, right? Because I think, you know, now obviously like looking at the Olympus server, there's a lot of talk about vote escrow Ohm, and then obviously with time today, there's something that popped up. They had a bit of a situation, and now they're looking at a similar VE model. Obviously, there's that new VE33 project, and I think this is like a good path forward for all of us, right? I think one thing we want to do, or one thing that we've always wanted to do with the token, is introduce a model similar to this, but I think there is still room for like a lot of innovation on top of the wxBTRFLY model, right? Which led us to start working on a concept called hidden hand, right? Okay, where do I start with this? So, as you guys may know, we did recently an acquisition of Votemak, which is, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Vodium. It's sort of like a Vodium for Tokamak, right? Um, we'll talk a bit about like what that implies later, but there's a greater vision, I think, to this acquisition, and I think like the same way Olympus has Olympus Pro, which is sort of like this extension of the DAO where they're generating new revenue. I think we can leverage this new piece of infrastructure we've added to our protocol to create like a redacted pro almost, right? And the protocol is called Hidden Hands. And it's something we've been working on for like the last little bit. So what is Hidden Hands? Imagine it like a permissionless bribe marketplace, right? Where, obviously Tokamak is integrated now, but all these other projects in the DeFi space that are launching VE tokens, I don't know who's announced them, whatever, like Ribbon, Yearn, Lido. I mean, we've been talking with nearly, I think, like 12 to 15 partners who are like ready to go on this. And, with Vodium, I think it's cool. Like we make a lot of revenue off of that just by delegating it, just by delegating our CBX there. But by being the creators of this marketplace, we're in a position where we can incur fees when people are just bribing other protocols to do their own thing, right? And as it's currently set up, there's a 4% fee in place. So what we're sort of imagining is 2% goes back to the treasury, and then the other 2% goes back to stakers. So by you just like passively locking your butterfly, we sort of creating this like cash cow on top of it, where you can basically get access to bribes of every protocol in DeFi eventually, right? And current projections is sort of like, let's assume we onboard 10 projects in the first cohort, whichever 10 projects we first choose, and they do 1/5 of the bribe volume that Convex does, or at least that Convex did in the last Vodium round. We'd be incurring about 1.8 to $2 million in fees that go, well, $4 million in fees. 2 million of that goes directly back to stakers as like an additional bonus. So I see a lot of projects talking about like how can we reduce emissions, and I think like one way that we're thinking about it is like rather than reducing emissions is replacing emissions, where we're not just emitting new butterfly and diluting people, but rather they're giving them access to this concept of like vote escrow tokens and bribe tokens across all of DeFi, right? um just to start like giving you guys some examples of what that looks like. So as you guys know, obviously tokamak, people are bribing token holders to get them core reactors, right? We had a conversation with Liquidity Wizard a few days ago on what that sort of looks like. But looking at how it could work for some of the other protocols, I think like Lido, for example, is like one that I'm like super excited about, because eventually they're going to start putting LDO rewards on top of like staking with like their STE, ST, Solana, whatever the case is, and on top of like layer ones, which are very treasury rich protocols, bribing Lido holders to give them LDO rewards. It could work in a similar position where if Lido is ready to accept a new layer one as like a protocol, then they'd have to bribe Lido holders, and we can sort of facilitate that through Hidden Hands. DopeX is a similar situation where basically everyone is waiting for like an SSOV, and they're releasing a VE DPX. People could lock their DPX, delegate it to us, and it goes directly to like the fees go directly back to the stake. I mean, honestly, I'm like super excited about it because I think and I'm gonna get to this later about how DAO-locked Butterfly gets into this. But basically, what the situation is, if you're more interested in generating fees and generating revenue, and let's say the meta governance thing isn't so important to you, this is like a super super dope way for you to just get access to the whole Bribe marketplace across DeFi, right? Then there's the other side of it, right? So this is what I mean by not being like a single VE token like platform. So also like I'd ask that like I guess like we keep this in here. I know you guys are like a super tight community, but I don't want to like ruin the announcement and stuff. um so that's Bribe-locked Butterfly. So let's say you're only interested in in accessing those emissions and accessing those fees that we're incurring through Hidden Hand, you would lock your Butterfly up for like 16 weeks or something, like Votelock Convex, into Bribe-locked Butterfly. Then there's another token, DAO-locked Butterfly. So this is more of like a DAO-facing product, like a business-facing product, where we still have all this voting influence in our treasury. And while majority of people want to accrue fees and want to accrue bribes and all this sort of stuff, we still have all this voting power. So let's assume that 80% of the tokens are locked up in Bribe-locked Butterfly. Now we have a situation where even if we are trading beyond our premium of the treasury, which I'll get to later, where I really don't like all this talk about RFV. I think it's a really stupid metric. But now we have like around 100% of our voting power for Convex and Curve and Ohm and all these sort of other protocols will be accumulating access to the other 20% of Butterfly that'll be locked up in DAO-locked Butterfly. Right? So thinking about where we're at right now, we're trading about like 2x over treasury. When the rough calculation is that it would be 3 times it's been a long day. 2 or 3 times more efficient for a DAO to acquire Butterfly and lock it in DAO-locked Butterfly and use that voting power for Curve and Convex and stuff. So what I'm basically saying is like 1 Butterfly equates to 3 Convex votes rather than 1 Convex equating to 1 Convex vote. I know that's a lot to process, but that's sort of where we are with things. We're looking to ship it super quick. I'll have like a DAO proposal up after we make the announcement, because I think we're going to need to bring on some more people to execute like the BD and stuff like that. But like from the protocols we've been talking to, like this first cohort will be like pretty fucking badass. And I think like, it's part of like what I meant by saying like, yeah, okay, whatever. I won't spend too much time on it. But yeah, that's sort of where we are with things. And like one other thing I'll add to the DAO-locked Butterfly. So the DAOs want to access Butterfly for the meta governance. They're not so occupied with like the fees or emissions or the revenue generated by it. So all the bribes that would have gone to those token holders are sent back to the people who locked it up in Bribe-locked Butterfly. So again, like now the Bribe-locked Butterfly holders are getting even more revenue and fees because X% of supply is locked up in DAO-locked Butterfly, where they're just using it to satisfy their own personal interests, you could say, right? Okay, I won't talk too much about that because I want it to be like a cool surprise we put out for everyone. But I think like, the reason we're doing this call today is just so we make sure like, all of you guys feel straight, no one's deserting this project because of a little price action. We're in it for the long term. We've all been cooking up some really dope shit. But yeah, I thought I'd let you guys like get some more insight into that, because obviously everyone in the general is like, when BE Butterfly, and I'm just telling them like we have 2 different vote-locked Butterflies and no one really understands what I'm talking about. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. There'll be like an article on it and like the interface and all that sort of stuff coming up on how exactly it looks and how it works for people holding Butterfly. What else do we have on the list? Treasury diversification strategy. Maybe we'll get to this later. We have a bunch of stuff to get through. Forum partnership updates. So I'm just gonna like quickly go by all of these ones that are in the forum right now and where we are with what they are. And I won't like leak all the other ones because I've already leaked like the VE Butterfly stuff. So let's go through the ones in the forum right now. So Jones DAO is a super interesting one. I think we have all this Ohm, and obviously like Dopex to us is one of the best places to utilize it and get yield on that Ohm. But we I guess it's not that we're not experts in like the last time we participated in Dopex, we made a good return on it. But Jones DAO is like a cool money Lego being built on top of Dopex. And what we can do is sort of delegate the Ohm for them to manage for a small fee, but that fee is basically made back by the Jones token, right? So now we're not only earning a yield on the Ohm, but we're also getting DPX and Jones and getting more exposed to like the Dopex ecosystem. So I think that one's super exciting. I don't see why anyone would vote no for that partnership. We'll have them up for like a community call sometime later this week. to talk more about like what they're up to. But I think that's like a really good path for us to keep building on the DopeX ecosystem. Squid DAO, they also launched. They're also like a own fork, I guess you could say, that has like a vote escrow token. But what they have access to is like millions of dollars of ETH. So basically, what we're trying to coordinate is them giving us some squid. We lock it up for like VE squid, and every time they make a sale of like an NFT in ETH, that we basically get a fee of that. So it's basically like a really cool like passive income of ETH to the treasury, which is something that like a lot of you also want to, right? Which is I guess you could say a more risk adverse treasury. DopeX, I think I've said this like plenty of times, like we're going to be doing DPX bonds. The only thing holding that back is the Arbitrum instance. And that doesn't like, like we could just wrap the token onto Arbitrum and let people trade it there. But what we're trying to do is create an instance on Arbitrum where people are bonding. Well, not trying to do, I think it's done, but we'll deploy it later. And then it's like, you bond DPX and then you bond like the wxBTRFLY LP that's living on Arbitrum to the treasury, and it emits you back wxBTRFLY. I think some of the other DAOs are doing this, like the cross-chain ones or the ones that have gone cross-chain. So it's not really groundbreaking anymore, but yeah, that's sort of what we're thinking about. And that's like kind of the architecture we want to have before we start moving to Phantom and bonding Liquid Driver or Arbitrum and start bonding DopeX and stuff like that. Vflexor is like a protocol that's growing pretty fast in like the Curve ecosystem. They've sort of heard our wishes in the sense that like we want the treasuries to start building out positions in LP tokens so we can get more upside on the CRV and CVX. Yeah, I mean that one, like there hasn't been too much participation actually. Like you guys should go check out that you should go check out that proposal. See what you guys think. I don't know if the best project to start it with is Vflexor, but I think it's a cool one, right? Because they're definitely getting a lot of emissions pointed toward them, and by POLing that liquidity, like we get more CRV and CVX. But go check that one out, like if it's interesting to you, like yeah. Tokamak. So obviously the main thing there is Votemak, which is turning into Hidden Hand, which we'll get into after with like how this works for like the new core round and stuff. But there's some other things we're exploring. Like I think everyone wants us to have a reactor. Luckily we're boys now with the Tokamak guys. We are gonna try and get a reactor for the next core round, which will really help the liquidity situation. Sort of like them routing liquidity for us and making sure orders are filled efficiently. And then the second part of that is like a potential token swap where we're trading Toke for Butterfly. And lets us just like get a head start before we start launching the Toke bonds, and just like build out like a really like again like a really deep position in the Tokamak ecosystem and making us like leaders there. Bribe DAO is an interesting one because at least like the core team is still trying to figure out like what the situation is there. I guess I don't think like with all the other things I've been talking about, I don't think like they'll be coming out before like we get all these things done. And obviously we want we want Votemak and Hidden Hand to succeed. So go check out the Bribe DAO proposal, like let us know if that's interesting. But yeah, Phantom DAO goes back to like what we were talking about in the Phantom instance. So I think that's like a super dope ecosystem to tap into, beyond like bonding Liquid Driver and beyond just bonding like Liquid Driver. I think obviously that new Andre coin looks pretty juicy, and then there's Spooky Swap, right, which is also really cool. There's like two like I don't know, I haven't used Phantom that much, but there's like every protocol has like a weird like Halloween name for some reason. And I guess it's cool. And yeah, so Phantom DAO is like, so they let us in early on the fact that Spooky Swap is releasing like gauges and stuff like that. I think like, if we can get a head start on like one of the most liquid dexes on Phantom, like that's obviously like uber bullish for us. Like I think that lets us get like a very good head start in like the Phantom ecosystem. And then Synapse is the bridge, right? Like I think everyone wants the bridge to start trading the token on Phantom and Arbitrum. So yeah, partnering up with Synapse to get the bridge going. Okay, what else do we got? I'm like not going in order, but FXS bonds. What's the update?
Regarding FSX bonds, like we're pretty much ready. It's just that kind of given the wxBTRFLY situation, we decided like we'll focus on this. Maybe like making an APY reduction, especially considering that a lot of people aren't staked. And then once we kind of nail those two tasks, the FSX bonds are next. We're just trying to move like everything step by step. But yeah, it should be like tomorrow, Wednesday, there should be FSX bonds live. We've delayed it quite a bit because of like a lot of things like liquidity issues and stuff, but like I think like it's ready to pull the like we're ready to pull the trigger on the FSX bonds.
Yeah, so I think I've been saying like, we want to build up the liquidity more. In a way, this like, for everyone who's like aligned with us long term, like this dip, you could say, has been beneficial in a way because we wanted to make the what was the target, Kieran? Like 10% of the LP.
I mean, like in internal policy, they say like 12.5% before like we like focus on actually spending the treasury, right? But like given the fact that when we go infuse and stuff, there'll be a lot of buy pressure. It might be like a better like kind of like target to set to more like 20 because like when there is sell pressure, like we're able to deal with it a little better in the future. But yeah, like 12.5 really.
Like I said before, like, the main focus is building out liquidity so that the project is a bit more sustainable and we don't have to deal with all this volatility. These crazy swings where we go up, these crazy swings where we go down. Like, I don't think anyone wants to deal with that, especially if we're moving towards this direction where Butterfly becomes more of a cash producing asset and cash cow, you could say. I think like we want it to operate more like a stable asset, not like a stable coin, but we don't want it to be having swings of like $1,000 in a day or something, right? So yeah, like we're looking to build out like the POL first, make sure the token is a bit more liquid, but the FXS bonds are ready to go. I mean, I think we'll deploy them tomorrow, sort of like a soft launch. If not tomorrow, like the day after. Probably starting at like an extremely low discount. Um, and just like get that position start to build out. If you guys aren't aware, if some of you are new here, like we got whitelisted in the FXS gauge prior to launch, which was super awesome for us. Now we have a locker and we can participate in the FXS governance and stuff like that. But a more lucrative path we found to like really leverage that FXS was through market making the FXS peg, the CVX FXS peg on Curve, using the FXS that we accumulate, right? So basically turning half into FXS, half into CVX FXS, and using this sort of like rolling hills arbitrage mechanism built into like an allocator contract where we're basically like enforcing the peg of CVX FXS, and we're profiting off of that, which benefits Convex because it's maintaining the peg of CVX FXS. It's helping out Frax because their FXS lock token has a liquid solution, and it helps us a lot too because we're making a killing on that, right? It would like the initial projections, if it's like a bit more volatile than the way CVX CRV performs, is that it could be like a 50% increase on revenue by market making the CVX FXS rather than just like locking it up. So that's like another thing we've been exploring with like the FXS that we accumulate. I think we'll do like a soft launch of the bonds soon to just like start building out that position and stuff.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And those strategies that they're going to become like key, and like especially like V2 with like rolling hills. We want to use that for like all our liquidity. Like we want to move to like managed liquidity. But like yeah, like I think like one point that like we've brought up quite a lot, like in general, like I've seen it quite a lot in the community, people asking about like when we'd be on Fuse, because they want to use their butterfly as like collateral. Kind of like quite fortunate, really, kind of given this market situation that we weren't on Fuse, because there would have been a lot of cascading liquidations. I think like in like the future when we like, migrate to V2, there'll be like a lot less like sell pressure because we'll move like away from like the Olympus like really high interest rate model to like something where a lot of the values are actually driven from like kind of like bribe commission. So people would be getting, I mean, like the value be kind of driven in the form of like bribe tokens as opposed to like just mainly the staking reward, right? And so like one thing we want to do is we want to be able to create like a nice like wrapper so that like there's a money Lego for people to borrow against. Like it's like their butterfly, but like it's accruing like all the kind of the bribe payments, all the kind of like strategy like rewards that we get. But the idea is that like it won't really be like geom and stuff. It'd be more like it'd be more like a wrapper to essentially take all these like the coupon payments and then turn them into more butterflies so that people can kind of like read through online like that. So that's another thing that we're looking into as well. Yeah.
Okay, dope. We're going way over, but let's keep hammering away at this. So the Votemak, obviously, like a lot of you guys have questions about that. So like I said, like Votemak is turning into Hidden Hand, the open protocol bribe marketplace. But like, we don't know if like that'll be like fully live and operating by the time the next core round comes around, which we want to obviously be at the forefront of. I don't know, DCF, if you want to come on, like maybe just like DM me or something if you're down to talk about like how Votemak has been performing in the past, and let me just invite you on stage if you want to come, and then you can deny it if you want. Talking a bit about like how we sort of build out like the Votemak protocol. Okay, here you are.
Okay, sorry, I think I got it fixed. Test?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry everyone for that. But yeah, Votemak. So basically, how it works right now is users can come along and they can vote for any reactor in the Tokamak core event. And when they vote for that reactor, they're able to then go to the Votemak website and claim bribes for their vote. So how it works is if, let's say I am the Terra team, and I want to make sure I get a Luna reactor in the next Tokamak vote, what I can do is I can come to Votemak and I can put up something like 1 million or 2 million or whatever dollars worth of Lunas. And then I can say anyone who votes in the core event for our reactor can then come to the Votemak website and they can claim a piece of that $1 or $2 million bounty for giving us their vote. And it's pro rata based on how many votes you gave in total to the Luna reactor. And it's really cool because what happened last cycle is of all of the reactors, Votemak ended up being the deciding factor for 3 of 5 of the total reactors. And the 2 reactors that won that didn't have bribes only won because they had a bunch of votes from the previous round, and one of the VCs that holds a ton of Tokamak obviously voted for their portfolio projects. So I think there's opportunity in this upcoming round to literally control the entire vote via bribes, which could be an extremely profitable opportunity for the cartel. Previously, when we did the bribes, we did I think we did like a 4% fee, and it ended up making us about $130,000 in net profits for the business, and that would be like $130,000 to the cartel without any emissions, so no bonds needed. It would just be fresh dollars that goes to add to the treasury, and as Sammy said, distributed to stakers, which is really cool. And that was in the first time when no one even knew how like bribes for reactors would work. Now what we're seeing is protocols are even putting up proposals ahead of the next reactor event to prepare to bribe you. So there's already a proposal on the UST forums from the Terra team themselves to the tune of bribing for multiple millions of dollars in Votemak on the next core round. So I expect a lot of other protocols to get prepared to do that too. And the best part is well, I don't know if this is the best part, but like for the bribe marketplace, at least a good part is that if you are bribing, there's no way to take that bribe back. So no matter what, we collect the fees, whether they win the reactor or not. So what we saw last time was people came and gave bribes, and once you kind of like dug the hole, you have to continue to dig deeper until you are the winner. Otherwise, it's like wasted cash. So we will see like not just one bribe, but then we'll see protocols competing to out-bribe each other. So last time, like Fox came in and they put in one bribe of like, I don't know, like $100,000. But then someone came and out-bribed them, and then they kept on adding more and more bribes, out-bribing each other until like even smaller protocols like AP Wine came and bribed like $1 million. And what that meant is even tiny projects that didn't otherwise have access to getting a reactor could now win one by giving out governance tokens. So I think it can be an extremely profitable opportunity for the cartel. and I think like is a pretty healthy like acquisition price for the cartel too. So we just want to see y'all winning, and glad to be involved here. So thanks for having me. Any questions?
Cool. Thanks, DCF. Let's see. Actually, no questions. Just tell DCF to stop dumping. DCF.
Let's go.
DCF is such a good one. Wait, DCF isn't a dog?
Not a dog.
Nah, no questions, man.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
for
for
having
joining
me up.
us.
No worries. Peace.
Okay, what else do we got? Damn, there's a lot of stuff. Let's talk about like information token. I think that's like a really cool project that we just started working with. I don't see them in the chat right now, but I guess like behind the scenes, right? There's an interesting problem with OwnForks that we have been like lucky to avoid because of our relationship with Olympus. Is that like a lot of people don't really understand how to operate the engine, you could say, or make sure that like, you know, the bonds go smoothly, BCV rates, all that sort of stuff, right? And that's often what leads to a lot of protocols failing, right? I think right now what we're experiencing is market volatility due to like liquidity, but it's not a sign of like the protocol failing because we're not failing with the bonds, which is the most important thing. Building out like that internal policy team that manages like the BCV and POL, PCV, all that sort of stuff, has been like extremely crucial to like our success, right? And I think like Kieran can talk a bit like about like how we've been able to grow out that team, and then I'll jump in and say like what we're doing to make it even stronger and make sure that like, you know, we stay ahead of this.
Sure. I mean, like, I might as well just talk about all the teams that we're building up, right? Because, like we're kind of in a situation where, essentially, like, we grew a lot quicker in terms of like community size, in terms of like the amount of capital that we control, like a lot quicker than we could actually build out the team. And so, like, I'm like out here like building out the dev team, and then also like I kind of played like quite a huge role in like building out the internal policy team. In terms of internal policy team, like we have Funky, we have like Percival, like these guys are complete giga chads, and like they're going to be the ones who are leading the internal policy team moving forward. Kind of like with smart contracts, like it's really hard to find really good smart contract engineers, but like now that we have like a really good reputation at Redacted, we've been able to like attract quite a lot of good talent. We have KP here. We also have another guy called Seiji. Like KP and Seiji work together like there, like together on the UI team. I mean the smart contract team, and then yeah, like. But the thing is, like, kind of moving into V2, the actual like protocol teams or like these teams, like we need to grow them out quite a bit. Before we were kind of like running like these like recruitment drives where like we kind of spoke to like, a lot of different devs and we kind of put them into tasks. That was how we built out our UI team, and our UI team is like world class. Like I think that if the UI team has more time, like they could probably like outcompete even like Olympus's UI team. Like I really believe in our UI team, but like yeah. Finding and building like engineering talent and low quality talent is like really hard. Like moving forward, like I think we're just gonna just keep headhunting. Like we're out here like trying to headhunt the guy that found the exploit. I was on Twitter trying to headhunt him, but he's really stubborn. I think. Yeah, it's basically our strategy moving forward. Like we need a lot of like really good people, and like we're just out here trying to find them the best way possible. Like we tried finding through the community. I think like I'm gonna restart that initiative. Except this time it's gonna be a lot harder to get in because obviously Redacted's really grown. But like I'd love like people to like come and reach out to us because that's how we've been growing our team.
Yeah, and I guess like information token for those who aren't familiar, is a cool new DAO. Right? It's a mini DAO where there's only 100 people allowed in at a time. Basically, like you come in based on how smart you are. They're looking to like work with new protocols and stuff, and they have like a really good understanding of how all this stuff sort of works. So we're going to be bringing them on as sort of like policy advisors also to just like make sure that this goes down even smoother, right? To make sure that we keep on building out the bonds program and make sure that we're like bringing in predictable revenue and stuff over time, like even better, right? Because I think for a lot of people, they don't really recognize like the importance this sort of stuff has over the protocol, right? And that's the sort of stuff that we're valuing. And I think like that's like a really important next step for us.
Exactly. I'd say like this kind of boring math stuff. It's super important. Nobody sees it. Nobody appreciates it. But then like when you actually start looking at these numbers, you're like, well, what the fuck is this? And like it's like these guys like they really like they're the backbone of the protocol.
Maybe let's talk about that next governance vote that's coming out to amend the constitution.
Yeah. So basically like essentially like with Thecosomata we kind of discovered there was like a bit of a roadblock in terms of the constitution. The constitution is quite strict about the minting of butterfly. Basically that you can really mint butterfly for anything apart from rebases and like the kind of claiming of like the initial like P butterfly. And this kind of meant that we're in a really beautiful position because like we can mint protocol owned liquidity directly, and it's actually more efficient than the bonds. And we were like, well, like we need to do something to kind of change the constitution to allow us to do this. And so like we don't want to just willy-nilly kind of these constitution amendments because like then like we kind of lose our principles as a DAO, right? But having said that, like being able to mint protocol owned liquidity is really important. There was also like the nature of the wording of like some like the minor details kind of made it like quite difficult for us to do things like treasury swaps and kind of like seed investments because people could argue that, oh yeah, you guys are violating the constitution. So we just changed the wording a little bit to make it easy for us to do the Curvance acquisition, the Curvance investment, the Votemak acquisition, etc., as well as like the kind of new initiatives that we have with protocol owned and controlled liquidity. We're able to now mint butterfly to add LP effectively. That's basically the constitution amendment. It's really important because if we don't get a 2/3 majority on that, then we can't do like anything. But like right now we have like a 99.7% majority, so like we're good. We just need to get more voters to get quorum. But apart from that, like I think we're good. Yeah, actually, Sammy, like I think actually no, I'll let you continue.
No, I was just gonna say I think we're just about done. I know we all threw like a ton of information at you guys, but I think you guys sort of wanted and needed that update as to like what's next, like what we're working on, all the different things that we're building, what we plan to do next. So if there's any questions, like feel free to drop them in the community call. Remember, every time Sammy coughs, a butterfly gets its wing. Yeah, I think I have COVID right now, so excuse me for that. Yeah, feel free to drop your questions in like the community call chat, like right above this community stage one, and we'll go through some questions. First one, are we in the Vesta round? No, we are not in the Vesta round, but we are talking with them, and we are probably going to partner with them because obviously, as a new stablecoin, you need a lot of CVX to really get the thing liquid, right? So we are talking with Vesta, but we are not participating in the seed round the same way we are with Curvance. It was explained really fast, but can you explain what the schedule to reduce APY will be and what you expect the fee revenue share will be as a function of APY? Secondly, can you explain? Okay, I'll get to the second part of your question after Natch.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, like reducing APY, like we were talking about it quite a lot because it's actually kind of funny because like people don't really understand like how the APY calculations work. Effectively, like we're increasing supply by like a fixed percentage of the total supply each epoch, right? And the number has been consistently at like 0.635%. But then what's happened is that because of the lack of market confidence, people have unstaked. And like the APY has gone from like 150 to like 220K, which is ridiculous. Like our plan originally was to lower it from increasing total supply from like 0.6 to like point 0.57 every epoch, which would have lowered it to like 100K, right? And like because of like a lot of stuff related to liquidity and like various situations, we decided to like put that on hold like kind of mid last week. But now, because of what's happened, we're going to need to make that number even lower. So like what's going to happen is like the total supply is going to increase at a much slower rate now than it would have prior. Like original plan was to kind of like have that stream in over the course of like 2 weeks. So over the course of like 2 weeks, we go from like what it is right now, roughly 220K, to like something more like 100K or less. And yeah, like we're having an internal policy call tomorrow, so we'll probably execute it straight after that. Actually, Sammy, can you go to the second half of the question? I mean, I could actually kind of answer like long term, like 100K is still really high. But what we do is we try to create like a framework for like lowering APY in the future and kind of create like a proposal to like regulate that. But like once it hits 100K, like then we'll kind of talk about future reductions. Sammy, like there was a second part to the question.
The second part was. Can you explain where we can participate in the DAO? I'm in Olympus, and work tirelessly over there in the incubator, but wanted to see if I can assist in this project as well.
If you look at DMs, if you're trying to work in internal policy, like hit me up. If you're trying to work in like kind of like community or something, like hit up like Mario Lopez. If you want to work in the partnerships and stuff, I think I'll probably like hit up Sammy or like Chapo. Yeah.
What's with us having to keep spending gas to keep approving every time we want to stake a new butterfly in the UI? Is this some kind of security feature?
It is a security feature, yeah, and even Olympus do it, right? Because like, imagine there's a situation, there's something wrong with the contract, and you have an infinite approval, then bad things happen. Obviously, like, can't really comment on that, kind of given the wxBTRFLY situation, but in general, as a design pattern, it's really good to have limited approval.
Yep. Let's see what else there is. Any more information on the Bribe protocol proposal? It looks interesting. No, there isn't any more information actually. It's on the forum right now. It's open for you guys to comment. Like actually in that proposal, there is like basically a mini proposal under it from the guys at what's it called? I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's like a smaller conversation, but it is more in depth, I'd say, than some of the other governance proposals. Yeah, I'd encourage everyone to go check it out to see like how we can work with Bribe protocol, and yeah, I guess like nothing's been hammered out there or like made official yet. Yeah, Paladin DAO, exactly. Paladin DAO is sort of working with working on creating, also involved in like the governance market, I guess you could say, in creating like lending markets for governance power and stuff. Any chance to see partnership with Citadel DAO? Yes. There will be something announced shortly with Citadel DAO. Yeah. I mean, I think people know that. I think they just wanted confirmation. Are there any updates to go Butterfly to multi-chain soon? Yeah, so like I said, like the number one focus is building out liquidity on mainnet, just to make sure that we can handle like extreme like days where there's extreme volatility like today. But we're ready to go multi-chain, right? I think the first two chains we're starting with is Phantom and Arbitrum. We're working with Synapse for the bridge. The coin actually is already on Polygon with our partners at Visk Finance, which is one of the other DAOs that's bonding Butterfly right now. They've bridged over around like $500,000 worth of Butterfly. And they'll be creating, like I think 250K will go towards like their treasury, and then another 250K will go towards creating an LP on Polygon. So that one should actually be the first one to be completed soon, which was like kind of like an initiative from another DAO, which we're grateful for. But we're going to be focusing on building out like multi-chain liquidity on Arbitrum and Phantom to start. Arbitrum because I think there's a lot of protocols focused on gauges and bribes and stuff over there, and then Arbitrum because I think DOPEX. We want to do a lot of stuff with DOPEX. Is anyone from so this is worth answering. Has anyone from the team spoke to Shada since his dump regarding future sales of Butterfly? I think we should have the situation safeguarded. So yeah, obviously this is what like people want to know, so I'll answer it. I talk to Shada like every day since he participated in the sale. Even before that, me and him have a pretty good relationship. I guess like what I can say is that I've put I don't know how I should say it. I've put like very good OTC offers from some other VCs and stuff like that in front of him at the Pico top and at this bottom that we're experiencing now, and he's shown no interest. He's shown like no sign of interest in any of them. So I obviously can't speak on like behalf of him and stuff, but from the conversations we've been having, like it's very cordial. Like me and him have like a really good relationship. Most of the team does. He's like pretty involved with the project. Helps out where he can, and yeah, I mean like that's sort of like the answer to like Shada and stuff. Like obviously what he did with Ohm was like unfortunate, which like hurt us and stuff too, right? But yeah, like I guess like the short answer to your question is that like yeah, we talk to Shada all the time, and like we have that situation under control. 9-9 didn't help Ohm and don't want to see it here. 9-9 has been a very we're not even on Rari and we felt the effects of that, right?
Yeah.
You wanna
It's actually a blessing that we weren't on Rari because like cascading liquidations would have killed that price. I think like Sammy can speak on that as well, because I mean I wasn't in the community call for very long, but I think like a lot of people in our core team were. They were talking about like, well, like Olympus kind of had their own fuse pool with like a 33% maximum LTV, and like people went into Tetra's pool, and like obviously like we work with Tetranode and we work with Olympus, but I think like it's a lot of things about like risk management, and more than that like how the kind of community apes and how that affects like the token price. And like how like that also causes cascading liquidations because people they over leverage. Like our kind of solution to like 9-9 in the future is like we do want to have like money Legos for like lending and stuff. We want to have like tokens which kind of like accrue value and form like consistent yield that people can borrow against. But like one thing we're hoping is that like kind of like our like change in like business model to kind of like reduce staking rewards and increase like these from like bribe payments and commissions would then like reduce the sell pressure on like our token, which would then enable us to be like a much higher quality collateral as well. So that's like what we're trying to do on our end to kind of like deal with like, oh yeah, people can 9-9, but then like we can kind of like reduce a little bit of that risk as well. Like a lot of stuff like apart from that is like kind of dealing with like pools and stuff. I can't really comment on that because we don't even have a pool on Rari yet. But yeah.
Yeah, Rari is an interesting situation. I think before this happened, like we obviously foresaw what the issues would be with putting such a like early stage token with low liquidity on Rari, even though everyone was asking for it. And we could have gotten on like one of the best pools there. I'm sure you guys can piece that together, but we held off, thankfully, because we just didn't want to put any of you guys in that position. Obviously, we felt the effects from it, but I think one day, eventually, when there's more safeguards in place, when the token is more liquid, when we're not a month old, we can do stuff like that and make sure that you guys are doing it like safely, and we won't ever be in that position. But I think for obvious reasons, like it won't be coming in the foreseeable future, as we sort of work out like a way to do sustainable 9-9, if that makes sense. Beyond Rari, there's like some cool like use cases for wxBTRFLY that we've explored, like using it as collateral for a stablecoin, specifically like the ones that are like partnering up with Ohm and launching with them. I think that'll come eventually too. So it won't be just like leveraging up on your Butterfly and stuff on Rari, but there'll be like other use cases for it and stuff, which are obviously like good for the protocol. It's good to make integrations and stuff, but again, like no one wants to put you guys in shitty positions, which we know is like definitely like a very new and risky concept in DeFi. And I think like it was wise that we didn't launch Rari when we were planning to, because it would have really hurt us. Just saw the response to the Bribe post. Does this mean we're supporting Votemak and shutting down the Bribe protocol? No, no one's shutting down Bribe protocol. I think we just need to, yeah, I just think we need to have more conversation in the governance proposal for that, for the forum post. When you move to VL Butterfly, do you have any ideas what the lock periods will be? I think like the one that's worked out the best so far has been the the convex mechanism. The way Convex does it, so like 16-week lock periods and stuff like that. But it's not locked in. I think we can do some cool stuff and make it a bit more flexible like Curve does. It can also evolve over time, right? That goes into like Kieran's conviction staking paper that he'll bring up later. Lots of 9-9 talk. Will Redacted ever create a second token that is not an Ohm inflation token and be more a normal token with a fixed supply? I don't see the need for it right now. For Hidden Hand, we want to make Butterfly be the token that feels the upside of that. If there's ever the need for a second token, like we're not opposed to it. But like definitely like has not come up internally.
The second token.
Yeah.
I mean, the second token would probably be like a BL Butterfly wrapper between officially endorsed, right? That would probably be the second token, right? Because it's like it's more gas efficient for like users. It accrues value like really like easily. That would probably be the second token. We're not gonna like this like Butterfly is like the core of our protocol. Kind of everything kind of stems from that.
Yeah. Why did you select 15% POL to market cap as the target? Why did you choose? I'll answer the rest of that. But why did we select 15% POL market cap as the target?
Wait.
Yeah, that was advice that we were getting from the internal policy team and the Olympus team. You know, I think Olympus was at 17%.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't like the signal for a second. I think like basically like it's because Olympus is at 17%. Like with us, like we wanted to be a little bit higher, like 20, maybe because of the position that we want to be in. Like 12.5 was kind of like chosen as like a good compromise because we can't just be trying to build liquidity forever. Like we have to like move on from building liquidity and start to actually like use that liquidity to operate bonds to actually grow the treasury. So that's why we chose like 12.5 to like 15. That's like the number.
Why did we choose 200 million treasury as the target as well? Yeah, I think that's also like a number that can be changed around and stuff. I think we'll hit 200 million in treasury very soon, a lot quicker than we expected. But yeah, I mean, that number as a KPI was selected because I think with 200 million, we can put the protocol in a position to sort of be self-sustaining while passing the bribe rewards back to you guys, right? I don't think it limits Butterfly's potential growth. Actually, it creates a new use case and a reason for people to lock up Butterfly, right? Because the way it works with every other one of the DAOs that are sort of in a similar vertical to us is that you lock up the tokens, you get your own token back, right? By introducing that concept of you getting the bribes back on top of like the inflation is another incentive for people to lock up the tokens. You guys plan on doing anything with Temple DAO? We have a group chat open. We're chatting. They have some stuff like obviously in the Curve Convex Frax realm that like makes sense for us to tap into, but nothing solidified yet. Would the bribes be paid in all different individual tokens like Bodium? Yeah, exactly. Any consideration of airdropping the actual bribes rather than paying in Butterfly for stuff? Yeah, that's exactly how it works. So you'd be getting the bribe tokens back.
Yeah. And that's why I was suggesting, right? Because it's gas inefficient to kind of receive 10 tokens, but like that's the cool thing about BL Butterflies. You're actually getting the bribes directly.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap up here. Like I know we threw a ton of information at you guys. It's a lot to digest. There's still some other questions which we'll answer in like general and in the chat and stuff. But I see like a few people are dropping off. So thanks for joining. Like I hope like this gave you guys a bit more insight as to like what we're building, and hopefully you don't feel too stressed by like the recent like volatility with the market and stuff. So yeah, back to building for us. We're around on Discord as always. And yeah, just ping us. Thanks, guys.
Wait, take care, guys. Bye.
Cool.